Yeah. I was watching something the other day about some missionary woman who made her way out to Oregon. Oh, take a big leap. Oh, and it was before Oregon was anything. She was one of the first people to make it across that horrific trek, that horrific journey. Her husband left her once for like 2 or 3 years or a year or something because he had to go back to DC and fight and say, I'm a good Christian. Why are you trying to shut me down? Because there was some guy in another town not too far away that was talking shit about him. So whatever happened, they got out there, and the Native Americans, the Amerindians that were there living in their own land and open to new people. That's what happens when you're open to new things. That's why they say you shall have no other God before me, is because if you got somebody else talking, you're not going to get your way every time. Well, she got her husband murdered and all this, and the kid died, and then it was either measles or smallpox came through and killed off the people, and they were like, what the fuck? And the thing is, they got along at first because these people that lived there were interested in strangers and wanted to know their ways. And these strangers showed up to press Jesus upon them. And they're like, Jesus sounds pretty cool. We worship the sky and the wind. I think that's Quorthon was the wind. And Conan the Barbarian, Subutai said, I worship the wind. He holds power over Cram's mountain of power. He is the sky. That type of thing. They're like, but they talked and they'd share information and they go, I still think mine's better. No big deal. Let's go loot. I knew it was going to go out. Cigarette went out. The idea of being open to more than one God versus the God that we have these days that says, you shall not worship any God before me. I guess the golden calf that was being worshipped when Moses came down with the 15 commandments and broke one of them, one of the tablets, 3 tablets, 5 each. And he said, you fuckers, you're worshiping a golden calf. I consider that to be Hindu, a religion. And he was just mad that he would follow somebody else. But the Native Americans, the Amerindians, they're like, we're okay with that. And they were friendly, and they named children after each other. And then more missionaries started coming when they made the road open, and they'd sent back message, this is a great fucking place for us. And it's an interesting thing. These people don't take shit. They just don't. And you can look at it the way the missionaries were built up. Missions were built up in California. They're like 22 miles a day away is what I mean. And that's based on the notion I read that you can go 22 miles on a donkey in a day to the next missionary away and be there before sunset. Why? Were they afraid of something? What were they doing to these people? I'll tell you. There was that guy in San Diego, that mission guy that got murdered by his people because he sold them on Christ and then said they couldn't have anybody else. And they're like, oh, well, we don't mind taking him in. But then he started whipping people and beating them and saying, you can only have one God. And they said, fuck you. And they murdered him. That's one of the best stories in history. Don't fuck with someone. You want your little flag? Don't tread on me. So these people, they were open to taking another God into their system. But Christianity, Catholicism, was trying to get rid of Sol Invictus in the Greek fucking ways of having gods. You know, called a second opinion. Some people don't think you're worthy to have a second opinion from God, but anybody that's pushing me down a path that's going to get me in trouble, I would like a second opinion. I know most doctors that are working in hospitals probably only were C students. That's what you get. I'm getting a second opinion. But here we go. Here we go. You think about the slaves in the South. They were also open to a new God. They were pushed upon by Christianity, and they're like, that seems okay to me. And it seems to stick. They hold close, generation after generation. It's really not that long ago that we had a war because people wouldn't give up their slaves. It's not just that, I know. It was about keeping the United States together. There were people that pissed off about having slaves, and they're like, we can't have this. And he's like, Lincoln's like, fuck, man, I gotta do something. That type of thing. You don't think that I'm a fucking worshiper of any God, nor a man, nor a beast. Not giants, just men. And here's how it works. Here's how the slave community fucked up the rebels in the South. They're whipping them into fucking believing. And they are okay with having Jesus. And somehow they convince them that Jesus is the only way. The slaves are like, yeah. You look at a lot of churches in the South, it's all Jesus. There's very little Apollo worship going on down there. But the trick they pulled was they made liars out of their masters. Because they must have been able to convince them enough on the sidelines when nobody was looking that there are many gods. Because what we see today is the rebel Christians from the South rising up and pushing for something new. Well, they have decided to worship more than one God. These fuckers that are in control right now, the South will rise again. Of course, shit floats. These fuckers have decided to go beyond just one God, and they've made a deal with the devil.